If you don't know what Cuphead is a shooter game based off old cartoons, and your main goal is to basically knock out the people who owe their souls to the devil. Why? Well, it's because you, child, somehow went into a casino and gambled underage, and lost because you were greedy. Now to save yourself, you have to do the devil's bidding and get the people in debt. While TDX over here is just place towers, upgrade, win. TDX and Cuphead are very different games. TDX is a tower defense game where you micro a lot, while in Cuphead, you need insane focus to not get hit and defeat the bosses. And I decided to try to beat both. One thing I want to point out before playing is that when playing TDX, I have to find the right time to switch tabs to play Cuphead. Also, when playing TDX, my Cuphead game freezes, then unfreezes when I switch back to it. When I first started, I loaded into the map, placed the ranger, and ran through the tutorial, getting my first coin and starting my journey. After that, I got the 3 coins from the apple guy and bought my first weapon from Pork Rind, the spread shot. The spread shot is a really good early game weapon with its multiple shot attack and really good DPS. Easy mode with Cuphead wasn't that interesting since I swept through the root pack, almost dying in the process, took down Goopy, ran through the run and gun, switching tabs at the end for the Plague Doctor, and showing off the win and the grading Cuphead. Since I wanted to do a classic new player loadout, I added Missile Trooper and got to work. Ruby and Crooks's final phase was a challenge for me, since if you don't know, I am not good at Cuphead. I've played for a bit, but I'm not that good. But in the end, I beat Ruby and Crooks, my Missile Troopers destroyed Eradicator, I beat the first Mausoleum, and got my first super. Intermediate was basically the same as easy mode, it's just easy. In my military vs TDX video, I saw in the comments that I could solo elite mode with only helicopter. So, that's what I did. At first I didn't really start any Cuphead boss since I wanted to get a helicopter just so I could defend. And by wave 10, I already defeated Hildeberg and I died at wave 16. I restarted the match and got bottom path helicopter instead of going for the top. I then tried to do treetop run and gun, but I failed miserably. So I decided that I didn't need any coins. Cagney Carnation was the final boss I needed to beat to get out of Incal Isle 1. But before that, I got more top path helicopters instead of bottom path, just so I can get more damage and more crowd control. Then I made quick work of Cagney Carnation. Then off to Incal Isle 2. Before going, I first went to Incal Isle 4 to get the Astral Cookie to become Miss Chalice, just so clearing bosses would be much easier. I checked on my TDX game, and most of my helicopters were almost maxed out, so I went back so I could face off some more bosses. Next was Beppy the Clown, which I easily cleared and totally didn't die a few times. And while trying to beat Bonbon, I defeated a revived Plague Doctor. How do I know? Well, when playing Cuphead, I can still hear the background music from TDX. Expert was much easier than Elite mode, mostly because I didn't have to worry about the crowd. But it was still challenging most of the time. I first went with a classic loadout using Combat Drone, Machine Gunner, Relic, Helicopter, Oil Rig, and XWM. I first placed the Machine Gunner, upgraded a bit, then hopped into a Cuphead to challenge Bonbon. My first attempt didn't end so well because I died at the last mini-boss. But I went back into TDX to get helicopters and combat drones to deal with the pesky flying enemies. By the time I got a top path helicopter and a bottom path combat drone, I went back to Cuphead to finish the job. The Candy Kingdom was now demolished. Next was Djimmi, who I literally spent the entire rest of the game dealing with. Every time I'm at the Cuphead puppet phase, all my health is almost gone. In between, I already defeated the mini-bosses in TDX, especially Eradicator Mark II, and after returning to the lobby, I went back to Djimmi to try to beat him again.
Is surely brewing. You're up!
Nightmare. This is gonna be long. I went with the average Nightmare loadout: Combat Drone, Relic, XWM, War Machine, Behemoth, and AA turret. After a few waves, I decided to position my Combat Drone so it would kill the enemies and I wouldn't have to move it around to chase them, so I could just take on Wally Warbles. I got through the first and second phase, went back to TDX to get a bottom path Combat Drone, and got to Wally Warble's third phase, aka his son. First, I knocked him out and was on his last phase, and I died. Oh, and died in Nightmare too. Anyways, I defeated Wally Warbles and restarted my Nightmare run. I replaced Relic with Helicopter because I forgot that I needed Helicopter for a Nightmare run. Anyways, I defeated Grim, Briny Rumor, Honeybottom, and Dr. Cow. Also Sally Stageplay. Along with Eradicator, Eradicator Mark IV, the two Destructors and their V2 drones, Eradicator Mark I Combat, and the fighter jets. I did try to get the Phantom Express when the fighter jets were inbound, but I decided to move on to Calamuria. Calamuria was one of the hardest bosses I had to face, with her multiple attacks at once in the first phase, and her eels with her stone face in the second phase. Until Emperor came out. Since I've dealt with Emperor so many times, I mainly focused on Calamuria. You can even hear Final Eradication when I'm fighting her. Anyways, I spent a long time on this boss and I couldn't beat her. Until I remembered that there was a cheat code to get more health. Oh yeah, I forgot. I activated Hidden Wave. Who cares? I defeated Calamuria and I defeated Hidden Wave. So, Nightmare has been passed. Only 4 bosses remained and a whole 2 hours worth of time to beat Endless. I spent the first 30 minutes trying to beat the Phantom Express. 30 minutes on this boss. The other bosses were like about 2 to 8 minutes to beat. But my gosh, I could not get past the stupid train. I just couldn't. Meanwhile, my TDX game was going just fine. I beat all the bosses before wave 50 and gave up on the Phantom Express. What a good use of 30 minutes. I decided to do a running gun just so I can get the last Mausoleum and Werner Werman, so I did. Burlius Bear. And guess what? I spent another 30 minutes just trying to beat it. That's like half of my Endless run, but I did beat it and got all the coins. I then beat the last Mausoleum, getting my last super. I went to Park Rind and got 2 more weapons from my armory, the Roundabout and Converge. I faced off Werner Werman, which took me about 20 minutes to beat him, and I also defeated Nightmare Void, which got me past wave 172. I then finally beat the Phantom Express, getting a perfect score, and it was on to the final bosses of Cuphead. The first role I got was Chip Spedgen. In the middle of the fight, I was too busy with him, and I didn't notice that I died on wave 179 in TDX. Fortunately for me, I wasn't going to restart all that hard work and time just to go back to wave 200. So, I spent the 20,000 gold to restart. I also restarted All Bets Are Off just so I can focus more. And the first boss I rolled was the Tipsy Troop, who were basically the easiest one out of all. Next up was Fear Lap, who I did beat, but I did lose 1 HP from him. But I was still determined to beat Cuphead. Last boss with Mr. Chimes. I hate this boss. First of all, he takes way too long to beat, due to the card matching game and the continuous dodging. I had to do a few close calls, but in the end, I finished him off, and I challenged King Dice. To be honest, King Dice was kind of easy to do, even though I lost like 4 HP. I did beat him, and back to my TDX game. I completed wave 190, and all I needed to beat was Void Apex Predator and the Devil. I wanted to do a cool scene where I beat Void, Apex, and the Devil at the same time, so I waited in TDX and I tried to beat a secret phase for one of the bosses. I decided to go with Sally Stageplay since I knew how to activate it, but when I passed the first phase, this happened. Yeah, I have no idea how that happened. But since Void Apex came out, it was time to face the devil.
Here's a real high-class.
I could not defeat the devil. Every time I face him, I'm always at least half of my HP in the third phase. And then I lose all my health. I just could not focus. But I only said I needed to beat Cuphead. Okay, yeah, I didn't defeat the devil, but I still beat Cuphead. Kind of. I just got the bad ending. And with that, I've beaten TDX and Cuphead at the same time. If you guys want, I can post the full gameplay. If you want, I don't know. But subscribe, like, please. I'm very tired. I'm tired.